Welcome back to 101 East. Now, most of the attention in Australia over the past few weeks has been focused on the issue of child sex abuse in Aboriginal communities. Even where such abuse may not happen, many aspects of childcare have been neglected for a long time. Chantao Cho visited the Ikunchi community, some 250 kilometres west of Alice Springs, and spoke to a childcare centre coordinator who has worked there for the last 8 months.
Late one night, just after tea, my baby boy came up to me with his eyes shining bright. He said,
I'm Valerie Coomber. I work here as a coordinator of the Childcare Centre in Ikunchi.
I want to know.
At the age of 16, I worked in an Aboriginal Mothers and Children's Hostel in Alice Springs. That started back in 1976, it was 77, and when I came back to the Territory, I worked in the hospital in Alice Springs and realised things hadn't changed in all this time. I was so frustrated. I was dealing with things that I was dealing with when I was 16. Here they are still happening. What's going on out there? There's still basic nutrition and basic hygiene that hasn't improved. The day usually starts, so I get here between 7:30 and 8. Mums will turn up and say, bath my kid, or my kid needs breakfast. And I just say, hang on a minute, there's no workers here. Can you just wait, let me finish cooking lunch. I know that they come and get good food here. I don't know how that is in homes. I don't know, how regular the feeding is there. I just see that I know that here they're getting their nutrition, which they're not getting. The alcoholism is a very strong issue. We had a situation here a couple of weeks ago. There was fighting in the community and we couldn't get the police here. There was drinking the night before, and then these children see this. I found one little boy and I found him hiding around the corner, shivering, just absolutely shaking with these tears just coming out of his eyes while he was watching his family fighting. And that really showed to me what violence does and what alcohol does do to these kids. It affects them in their behaviour. The kids get angry, they show out their anger towards one another. When mum's not right, the kid's not right. The concerns I have is people coming in that think they know the solutions. It's not about just coming and fixing their houses, it's about showing them how to fix their houses and having the time to spend with them, to give them self-esteem. These kids can have so much pain and not be able to relate their pain to anybody.
The issues so that we can provide safe environments for young children.
My frustrations is because nothing has been done for so long. And I believe, when I've listened to Mal Bruff speaking and a lot of his words, I'm thinking, yes, he's on the right track.
That is where and from them all we come from.
For me personally, I just hope what they say they're going to do.
Still with us are Warren Mundine, Michael Mansell and Gerard Henderson. Gentlemen, the one phrase that stuck with me from that film was the phrase, nothing has been done for so long. Warren, that is a pretty fair criticism of the situation,
well, yes.
and it relates to some of the criticisms that are going on against John Howard. Why has he suddenly decided that this is the issue he wants to pin himself on?
No one comes to this table with clean hands. My party, and I'm president of the Labor Party, it comes with dirty hands as well. We had reports over 30 years that highlighted this issue at state and federal level, and we didn't do anything either. So we don't come here with clean hands. The issue for me is that I'm not concerned about why people have been motivated about doing it. Yes, there's an election coming up. Yes, we should have done something earlier. The fact of the matter is we're actually doing something now.
Let me put that to Michael Mansell. Do you believe that?
No, I don't. I think that this is about an election, and the difficulty is, I take a point that what difference does it really make if a politician is motivated by his own selfish political gains if he can bring about some change? And I wish that were the case. By taking more away from Aboriginal people is not going to make things better. By imposing white authority on Aboriginal people is going to make people more dependent, not independent, by doing it the way that John Howard says, is going to alienate the Aboriginal communities, and it is not going to engage them in a process that, you know, could make a difference in 10 years if the governments were serious and they went about it in the right manner.
All right, but my question to you still, Warren, is why is it that John Howard has focused on the grandstanding approach to adopting this report? Why is it that he's not sat there, and again I'm quoting to you from the report, and focused on paragraphs that say there must be further government investment to enable planned reform, the number of child protection workers must be increased, the government must actively support Aboriginal men to engage in discussions? I mean, phrase after phrase, paragraph after paragraph of specific policy recommendations that you can actually take to the public and say, look, yes, positive action, rather than this really rather heavy-handed approach he's taken.
Oh, look, this is I find this very bizarre. You're talking about the sexual abuse of women and children and the violence against women and children in communities at epidemic levels, massive levels that are just unheard of in other communities in Australia, probably around the world. And yet
What? It's in the white communities as well, Warren, you know that.
This is after report after report after report for the last 30 years. And people are concerned and worried about, I think, issues on the side. My big push, and this is what the Labor Party is supporting the government on this issue, is to actually to deal with those issues of sexual abuse, to deal with those violence within those communities.
Michael Mansell, at the end of the day, is there a better approach to stopping the alcoholism, stopping the child abuse?
Of course there is. And look, I'm not surprised that when you listen to my co-commentators, it sounds like listening to John Howard. Warren Mundine is on the payroll of John Howard, and Gerard Henderson used to be. And I think, yes, there is a better way to do it. Instead of taking more away from Aboriginal people, hand half the country back to the people from whom the land was stolen. And then give the people the capacity through finances and legislation to allow us to work through these issues in our own way without somebody else telling us how to do it.
All right, let me put that to Gerard Henderson. I mean, Michael Mansell has made this request before, give the land back to the Aboriginal people and give them more rights. Is that a serious proposition, do you think?
Well, there are lots of Aboriginal land rights and native title rights in parts of Australia, including the Northern Territory, but the problems exist. I mean, as Warren Mundine said, what we've got here is an absolute crisis in Aboriginal communities affecting very young Australians and women. It is an absolute crisis. It's got I mean, if there's sexual abuse in the Catholic Church, people are arrested, they're charged and they're put in jail. If there's sexual abuse on Aboriginal communities, this is allowed to go on. Police have not worked properly in this area. The Northern Territory government is primarily responsible, and the federal government is now coming in and trying to do something about it. As Noel Pearson, the Aboriginal leader, has said, it's all very well for people like Michael Mansell to talk about it, but his kids and his nephews and nieces, they go to bed at night safe. In the Northern Territory, young girls and young boys and women probably don't go to bed at night because in many communities they're threatened by serious sexual violence, which in any other part of Australia would lead to very lengthy jail terms.
Let me ask you, Gerard.
So what we're dealing with here is an absolute crisis. And it's all very easy to say, let's have another conversation, let's have another committee meeting, let's do another 3 reports. We've done all that over 30 years and it hasn't worked.
Michael Mansell, you're talking about giving the land back to the Aboriginals. I want to quote you, Noel Pearson, one of the leaders of the community. You said the psychological incapacity to step up to politics in mainstream Australia is one reason why our people continue to lose. What makes you think that giving them the land back is actually going to solve that problem?
We don't have to be like white people to succeed. If the governments and people like, you know, the advisors like Gerard Henderson and Warren Mundine could see the value of Aboriginal culture, could take all the positive features of our people and allow those positive features to be the foundation for a way forward, and then for governments to get behind that, not interfere with it, not destroy the culture, which is the bond of the people, but recognise its value as keeping the people together, and on the basis of that, let's move forward. And that involves the governments of Australia getting behind Aboriginal people instead of sending in the troops, sending in the police and invading Aboriginal lands like had happened 200 years ago.
This is where Michael's talking a lot of nonsense. You know, he's talking about this invasion, he's talking about all these other issues that are happening. A lot of these communities, when the police and everyone's going in, they're welcoming them. They're glad to see them. And just because we disagree on issues doesn't mean that I'm not a proud Aboriginal. The difference between us is they gave land, heaps of land to Aboriginal people. That didn't resolve the issue. We've got to do the hard yards. We've got to.
Now they're taking it back.
Okay.
Everything's just falling apart. We've got to do the hard yards, get governance back in there, empower Aboriginal people and bring them forward to make things happen. And to do that, we've got to get educated. We've got to do a wide range of activities.
And there we will have to leave it. Gentlemen, thank you all for joining us for this discussion today. That's all we have time for. From all of us here on 101 East, it's goodbye until next time.